Today, we're going to dive into a fascinating paradox: how the collapse of a huge empire in India didn't actually lead to an artistic dark age. Nope. Instead, it kicked off an incredible explosion of architectural creativity.
It's a great question, right? You'd probably expect chaos, maybe decay. But in 14th century India, something amazing happened. When a major power, the Delhi Sultanate, started to decline, it sparked one of the most vibrant and diverse periods in architectural history.
And that brings us right to our main topic: provincial architecture. Honestly, you can think of it as a creative rebellion. As different regions broke free from the Sultanate's central control, local rulers and artists were suddenly unleashed. They started to experiment, mixing the grand Islamic designs of the old empire with their own local materials and, their own age-old traditions. So here's our game plan for this little tour. We'll kick things off by understanding how this all got started. Then we're going to travel to the brick kingdoms of the East, check out the stone wonders of the West, and finally watch how it all evolved into these grand, monumental styles in the Deccan and beyond. Ready? Let's jump in. Our journey starts where the empire's grip was, starting to slip, way up in the north and east, in Punjab and Bengal. Now, these lands were just rich with clay and river soil, so it is absolutely no surprise that their builders became total masters of brick and terracotta. And this is just a perfect example of that regional creativity we were talking about. Both places use the same humble material, brick, but look at how different the results are. Over in Punjab, you can really see the heavy influence of the old empire. They took that Tughlaq style with its massive, sloping, fortress-like walls, but then they covered them in these brilliant blue and turquoise tiles. Meanwhile, Bengal, they went in a completely different direction, developing these super intricate terracotta carvings and those unique, gracefully curved roofs that were actually designed to look like local bamboo huts. Let's zoom in on a real star from Punjab, the tomb of Shah Rukn-e-Alam in Multan. I mean, you can see that Tughlaq influence right away in its massive, sloping walls. It honestly feels as much like a fortress as it does a tomb. It's this incredible three-tiered octagon, all covered in those signature glazed tiles, and it's even reinforced on the inside with wood, a technique that goes way, way back in that region. And just to give you a sense of this scale here, look at this number: 35 meters. That's well over 100 feet tall. This thing was designed to dominate the skyline. It was a monumental statement of faith and power, and you could see it from miles across the plains. Okay, now let's jump over to Bengal and check out its most ambitious project, the Adina Mosque. We are talking about one of the largest mosques in all of medieval India. The scale is just mind-boggling. Picture a huge open courtyard surrounded by aisles covered by, get this, 378 separate domes. And this just perfectly illustrates the fusion we're talking about. It has this grand, vaulted hall inspired by the imperial mosques back in Delhi, but the whole thing is built and decorated using local brick and stone craftsmanship. All right, we're leaving the world of brick and clay behind us. Now we're heading west, where a completely different landscape and a different material gave rise to a totally different artistic vision. Welcome to the marvels of carved stone in Gujarat and Malwa. The story of architecture in Gujarat is all about this spectacular fusion. See, when the independent Gujarat Sultanate was formed, its rulers didn't just copy a style from somewhere else. No, they collaborated with the region's unbelievably skilled Hindu and Jain stone carvers. And the result? It was a breathtaking blend of Islamic arches and domes with the intricate, almost jewel-like detail of local temple carving traditions. And nothing, I mean nothing, captures this better than the famous stone latticework screens known as jalis. This quote here describes the work at the Sidi Sayed Mosque, and it's basically poetry in stone. The tree of life jali, carved out of a single piece of stone, is so famous it's become a symbol for the entire city of Ahmedabad. This wasn't just decoration, this was artistry at the absolute highest level. But right next door in Malwa, it was a totally different story. They didn't have Gujarat's deep-rooted carving tradition, so Malwa's rulers looked back to Delhi for their inspiration. Their style is all about authority and grandeur. Think massive buildings like the Jahaz Mahal, set up high on platforms with these huge staircases. They used colored stones and bright tiles to bring a lot of vibrancy to these really powerful, imposing structures. All right, for the final leg of our tour, we're going to see how these provincial styles just got bigger and bolder. They grew in confidence and in scale, leading to some of the most dramatic buildings in the Deccan, and later giving rise to totally new fusion styles under a whole new set of influences. And if you want to talk about grand scale, you don't have to look any further than the Bijapur style in the Deccan. This is architecture that is just unapologetically bold. The key features are unmistakable. You have these massive, almost perfectly spherical domes that just seem to float, and they're flanked by these tall, impossibly slender minarets. It's got a powerful, dramatic character that is completely and uniquely its own.
So this timeline really helps put it all into perspective, right? After the great Deccani sultanates, new powers and new influences came onto the scene. In the 18th century, you see the rise of the Jaipur style, which is this beautiful blend of local Rajput traditions with the super refined elegance of the Mughals. And then even later, in Awadh, modern-day Lucknow, the style evolved again, this time pulling in elements from European design.
So you see, this whole fusion process didn't just stop. It evolved, and it went down two pretty different paths. In Jaipur, you get the famous Pink City. They blended local Rajput traditions like those little domed pavilions you see on rooftops, called chhatris, and the ornate overhanging balconies, or jharokas, with the precision of Mughal design. Meanwhile, in Lucknow, the Awadh style got a bit more flamboyant, using all this elaborate plasterwork and absorbing European design ideas into its grand gateways and palaces.
Wow, okay, we have covered a ton of ground, haven't we? So let's just do a quick recap. This table perfectly sums up the unique identities we've explored. You've got the curved terracotta roofs of Bengal, the intricate stone screens of Gujarat, the massive domes of Bijapur, and the delicate pavilions of Jaipur. It all proves what we said at the very beginning. The fall of one empire allowed many unique artistic voices to rise, each one forging its own distinct architectural language from its own materials, culture, and history.
And this really brings us to a final thought, something for you to think about. We've seen how buildings can tell a story of political change, of cultural fusion, and of incredible artistic innovation. So the next time you're walking through your own town or your own city, take a closer look. What stories are the buildings telling you? How does the architecture around you reflect the unique history of the place you live?